Welcome, everybody, to the Best of 2023 on Theater and Stream, a film podcast. I am Chuck, and I am joined, as always, by Matt, and we are here today to share with you the best films we saw this year, the best TV we saw this year, and give a few specific awards. We don't go too crazy with this kind of thing, but we did want to make it something special, something separate from the usual show. And, because everyone else seems to have already gotten these things out. So we've given ourselves a chance to catch up on some stuff and make some final decisions. So, Matt, why don't you take it away just by saying, what did you think of the year in general?
Sure. Yeah, I thought it was a very good year for movies. I probably started with a list of, I don't know, I'd say 25 films, and then sort of had to whittle it down to my top 10. So I think that's typically a good sign when you have too many things that you want to include. So yeah, it was overall a very, very great year.
I'd have to echo that. There was a lot of very resonant film this year, and I didn't even see everything that I wanted to see, as per usual. I'll play catch up on the year eventually, but really feel comfortable with all of the selections that I made for my list as well. But why don't you take it away and start with yours?
Yeah, so my top 10 films of 2023 are from number 10, Husera the Bone Woman. This is a horror film, a first time feature from Michelle Garza Cervera. I thought this one was really, really interesting. Had a lot of good commentary to it in addition to its horror elements. I thought some of its horror imagery was really striking and very disturbing. And this one didn't get a lot of credit this year. And I hoped that by putting it on my top 10, hopefully it'll get a little bit of a boost. And then, yeah, speaking of movies that need a boost, my number 9 is Blackberry. The sort of origin story of Blackberry cell phones. We've been getting a lot of these weird sort of origins of company movies lately, I guess is what I'll call them. And this is among the best. You've got career best performances from Glenn Howerton and Jay Baruchel, who are normally relegated to comedy films. And this was just a lot better than it had any right to be. It's just sort of the rise and the downfall of Blackberry. And then number 8, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, my personal animated film of the year. It sort of does everything the first film in this series did, but better. And so I don't see how you could leave it off. If you're somebody who liked the first Spider-Verse film, I don't really see how you could like leave it off. I see a lot of the people leaving this film off of like their top 10 lists or whatever because it's sort of, I don't know, I guess it's just the mentality of been there, done that. But yeah, this one definitely did everything the first movie did, but just better. Then number 7, Holy Spider. Now this one's an interesting one. I think we both really, really like this movie. I guess a lot of people would consider this maybe a 2022 movie, but it did not get its US release until 2023. So hence why it appears here. Very disturbing stuff. Very, very interesting for a movie that comes out of the Middle East, especially. Some pretty subversive filmmaking as far as movies that come from that part of the world. And then number 6, Priscilla, the biopic of Priscilla Presley. Really, really good stuff from Sofia Coppola. Just a really, really well done period biopic. Sort of in the same vein of The Iron Claw, the last film that we talked about in our regular episode. Number 5, Oppenheimer. I don't see how you could leave this one off your list. If you saw a movie in 2023, it was probably Oppenheimer. And it's among Christopher Nolan's best and his most mature films. Number 4, Godzilla Minus One, the big surprise blockbuster for the year. This one is it took Godzilla fans and non-Godzilla fans by surprise, sort of in equal parts, I would say. Loved this one. Just, I mean, if you want a good blockbuster in 2023, there aren't a lot of them because they delayed everything because of the strikes, but this is the one to see. Number 3, The Killer. A lot of people are calling this like mid-tier David Fincher. I don't think so. I think this is high tier David Fincher. This is
Absolutely.
him, yeah, just operating on all cylinders. Really interesting stuff he's saying about sort of how easy it is to like just fuck with a person's life in 2023, just using like the weird things that we have around us, such as Amazon and like Uber and just all these, very, very interesting commentary in this one. Number two, Bruiser. This one
I forgot
is you're
about
not
this
gonna see.
movie.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people did. You're not gonna see this on a lot of people's lists. This was sort of a straight to Hulu movie, but this is a very, very interesting story about a kid who is sort of torn between the two father figures of his life that have very differing styles of parenting, very different worldviews. I can't wait to see what this director does next, and hence why it is my number two. And my number one film of the year, I sort of alluded to it in our last episode, but it is Anatomy of a Fall. This one is from Justine Treat, written by Arthur Harari, one of my sort of favorite burgeoning film writers out there. Just a really, really expertly done courtroom drama. This one is operating on so many different layers. There's so much to take from this movie. This is one that they're gonna teach classes about, I think, in criminal justice 101 courses at your local community college. People will be watching this film, and so yeah, my number one film of the year.
Right on. Quite the list. I was glad that Bruiser made it on there for you. I forgot about it up until I saw it on your list, and then I was reminded. That's a movie, because that's another trend that has been happening more frequently. The 4:3 ratio is making a comeback. Was it used to greater effect in Bruiser than in like Saltburn, for example? There we go.
I think so. Yeah, I would say so. Because I mean, in Bruiser, it's sort of done. Well, it's done to place the movie in the time period, I think, for the most part. But then it also makes everything feel very like tight and very, very like anxiety inducing. Yeah, I don't know. I guess in Saltburn, I heard that the aspect ratio was supposed to like, what was it? It was supposed to give the effect that I know I had put it in the doc. I can't remember now, but there was some sort of effect it was supposed to have, and
voyeurism.
Really,
I think that's what it was.
Voyeurism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give the effect of looking in on this family, and so yeah, I don't know. It was a stunt in that movie.
Absolutely. But otherwise, it's like we alluded to, pretty strong year, and it's evident that we had a lot of different choices actually on our between our lists, and quite a drastically different placement. Because if you're all right, I'll just transition right into mine.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll have to get it up in front of me again here. But right off the top here, yeah, I have Infinity Pool. The lot of what went on my list this year either really moved me on an emotional level or left a lasting impact intellectually. And the questions that this movie leaves you with, with its, speculative, premise, really fucked me up. So I clung to that for a while. The Killer also made my list, but I think it's just a testament to how much I loved so many of the other movies this year that it's only at number 9. Really enjoyed El Conde. It was equal parts horrifying and hilarious. Same with Sanctuary. It's a very intimate little nightmare of an experience. But Holy Spider rounds out my bottom half of my top 10, because I just remember being completely taken aback by how committed it was to just showing you all of the things that serial killers do. And it had just a very holistic approach that I appreciated. And I guess the same is true of War Pony. That movie, it hit really close to home, but at the same time, it was deeply authentic and very powerful, apart from that really hokey ending, but I forgive it, because otherwise I really, really loved it. The Holdovers at number 4, very special little movie. I I don't know how did they just put like a contact on his eye to give him the wall-eyed expression that he always had, because you didn't know which way he was looking, and it resonated very with me very personally, just because it's about like being due to your mistakes or your choices or wrongs that have been done to you. You're trapped in an unideal situation, and how do you make the most of it, whether it's just for a holiday weekend or your whole fucking life. That just really hit me really close to home. Godzilla minus one, it did everything as a blockbuster that you want, and it did it with less. It did it the right way. It did so many things the right way. I wish more movies were like it. Oppenheimer comes in at number 2. It's Nolan. He's my boy and he's killing it, so he has to be on my list somewhere. I couldn't give him the number 1 though, because a small little movie from Spain completely took my heart and crushed it like a overripe peach. Because like that's what we got going on there. It's just have you ever seen The Tree of Wooden Clogs or heard of that movie?
No, I think I think you mentioned it when we reviewed the movie, but yeah, what
Yeah.
what about it?
Well, they're very similar, but they're about different periods of time. Like it's about serfs working on a communal farm in Italy in like the 1700s or something, and just like how tenuous their lives are. But it's very no professional acting. It's very dry, very documentarian in its approach, much like Alcaraz was, and the the El Caras is just that movie for the 21st century, just showing how these very baked in ways of living are just completely decimated by progress, and and just how little can get in the way of progress. People expect grace to be given for all sorts of reasons in their lives, and this is just showcasing in a very modern and thorough way, how being good neighbors isn't worth very much anymore.
Sure.
Yeah, and a
Yeah.
really
Great.
powerful
I mean,
movie.
great
Yeah,
list.
yeah,
I really, yeah, I had trouble with that one, and I kept swapping it in and out of my list. El Caras, and yeah, I love that movie also, and yeah, go watch it on. I think it's on Mubi. Is that where
yeah.
we watched it? Yeah.
That, yeah,
So
that
yeah, go subscribe to Movie for like a month and watch that and a bunch of other good movies.
very very simple. Yeah, that's There's the grandpa. There's the kids. It'll make you cry. It'll move you. But yeah, you'll have to read a little bit. But it's gorgeous to look at. But yeah, those were my top 10 films. Now, shows I had more trouble with, because my
Mm.
confession to you is I didn't finish a whole lot of what I started this year.
Sure. Yeah.
That's my deep, dark secret. But I did go back and make sure that everything that was on my list I had seen all the way through. But I will pass the top 5 shows to you.
Yeah, so my number 5 TV show of 2023 was Barry, the final season. I think this show really stuck the landing. I've said it before, I'll say it again, that Barry is a show that evolved into something so monstrous and evil almost. As far as like a show that started out as almost like one of those half-hour HBO comedies like Silicon Valley, this show evolved into something so much more sinister, and really thought it stuck the landing. Number 4, this season of Slow Horses, which just ended. I actually haven't even talked about it on the regular podcast, but talk about another show that evolved into something better, because the first couple seasons of this were very watchable and I always enjoyed them, but this, the actors are really locked into these roles now, especially Gary Oldman. He actually got I think a Globe nom this year for the first time for this show, for best actor in a TV show, and so really loved what they did this season. Number 3, Dead Ringers, from our boy Sean Durkin, who we just
Yeah,
finished talking about last week. This show, talk about sinister, talk about, when a show that tries to do a little bit of what Succession is doing and actually sort of succeeds, unlike something like Saltburn. I still think about that dinner scene from the second episode that is just like horrifying. And then my number two, the Lazarus Project. Talking about a show that nobody watched. This was a BBC import that became a TNT original show. Loved what this show was doing with sci-fi and time travel, and it's asking a lot of the same questions that Oppenheimer was asking. About like, if the world ended, or like, could we go back and because basically what they do in the show is they use time travel to stop these world-ending events because they keep happening. And like somebody launches a nuke, or somebody
Get off of him, honey.
somebody sets off a
Get
pandemic.
off of him.
And so
Listen.
this show to me was really, really incredible, and it's so worth watching it wherever you can find it. I don't know. I mean, the only way I found to watch it was to log into my in-laws cable account on TNT.com. So I don't know. Find a way if you can. Number one, no surprise here, Succession. This show had such a shock in its third episode. It was shocking to everyone. It was incredible. And then the rest of the season was just the kids duking it out. And this show, it didn't end the way everybody wanted it to end, but it ended the way that it needed to end. And so I give them props for doing that, for having the courage to do that. And yes, my number one show is Succession. But yeah, what about you, Chuck?
Mine, there's going to be a lot of the same and a lot different. We'll just put it that way. What's not going to be on here, I'm just going to say, because it actually finished, is what's it fucking called? Murder at the End of the World. What a worthless fucking waste of time that was, because I was really invested in that, and for a hot second I was like, ooh yes, this is cooking, this is going to be good. It was not. But you know what was? What We Do in the Shadows. Angie had gallbladder surgery, and she got us into watching every single episode and season of this, all the way up to like what came out last year. And this is one of my favorite shows ever. I love these characters so much. I'm gonna miss them so much when the show ends, because that's what they're hyping us up for. So I'll take what I can get. And number 4, I have Swarm. And maybe this is cheating because it's a limited series, but this show fucked me up, and I'm still thinking about it. Fargo might be cheating a little bit because it's not quite done, but I'm just going to say preemptively, unless they completely shitbox this ending, this is a return to form for the show, which is funny because I hear a lot of mainstream people saying that, which is a strange concession to make about maybe the last couple seasons of Fargo. But yeah, Dead Ringers comes in at 2. Like, if Sean Durkin had been more this vibe with the Iron Claw, it might have alienated more of the wrestling crowd, but the cinephiles would have loved it more. Because I love this trend of people taking movies that aren't asking for a TV show and actually delivering something worthwhile. Sexy Beast is coming out like later this month or something, so keep an eye out for that. But of course, yeah, Succession, number 1, it's the king. No one else had the balls to do what they did in the history of television. They could have kept this show going for years, and they had the integrity to say no, and we're all the better for it, even though we all are miserable, just as miserable as our boy, as our I'm the oldest boy, like moping at the seaside. Like, we are all in that same place, but I think that's where we all deserve to be.
Yeah, solid list. And yeah, I mean, if for some reason, I tried to sort of rearrange things, but it always ended up that Succession was at the top. And if for some reason you haven't seen Succession, you've been living under a rock, on one part, I'm sort of like, what are you doing? But on the other hand, I'm like, oh my God, I envy you because you get to watch all 4 seasons of this show. I wish I could just erase it from my memory and watch it all fresh again. But yeah, it incredible.
Alas. And now we have to, pray that we can find something to replace it. The writer's strike made it so hard to do that. So now we're going to move into some miscellaneous categories. The first one that is up is the worst film that you saw in 2023. I'm gonna give it to you, Matt. You go first.
Yeah, so I don't think I even mentioned this on our regular show because it wasn't worth mentioning, but this is the Pope's Exorcist, the exorcism horror movie starring Russell Crowe, where noted Australian actor Russell Crowe pretends to be an Italian priest, complete with an awful, awful accent. This movie is really in like so bad it's funny territory. So it's sort of worth watching for that. If you want to watch like a 250-pound man zip around the Vatican on a Vespa, that's like an inch from like bottoming out on the road. Um, it's funny because Crow he's simultaneously taking his role way too seriously, but he's also on complete autopilot, and you can like practically see the like cartoon squiggles of whiskey breath coming out of his mouth every time he opens it because oh man, he's on something during the filming of this movie, or he was on something. But yeah, otherwise it's just a paint by numbers shitty like religious horror film. Spinning heads, vomiting, crawling on the ceilings and the walls, words appearing in your skin. Yeah, it sucked.
Yes, there's a theme here. Because I put different things. I put movies that maybe didn't deserve it that I was just really disappointed in. But the more I thought about it, the only answer, for me as well, is an exorcism movie, The Exorcist Believer. I didn't spend enough time talking about how much I detested that movie and what it did. I could probably give an entire like minisode. I'd do an essay about how much I hate this movie, and it wouldn't be enough time. Just would not be enough time. Did you ever watch this?
No, I still haven't seen it. This one would need to have a price tag of free for me to
I'll
actually get around to watching it.
But go sit on the couch.
I think,
I'll bring it to you.
unfortunately, at this point, I would have to subscribe to Peacock for a month in order to watch it, and I'm not going to. So yeah,
Okay.
still haven't seen it.
I accidentally auto-renewed like for a $60 annual, which for Peacock is so fucking worth it. But it's not worth it because you get to watch crap like The Exorcist Believer. It's worth it for getting to watch the Super Mario Brothers movie as many times as you want in a year. That's really what we're about. And suddenly I'm holding a baby. But we're coming back in with the film they didn't get from 2023. What was your take on that, Matt?
Yeah, so this is basically the film that you liked that everybody else seemingly didn't like. And the way that I chose to take this was sort of a film I watched this year that I liked to some extent that was like completely shit on by critics. And this is a film that another one I didn't talk about on the podcast, but I did watch called Kandahar. And this is a action movie starring Gerard Butler. I think it currently has a like 44% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and like a 52 out of 100 rating on Metacritic. So yeah, pretty much middling or not liked by critics. And I don't know, I don't really get it. This is a pretty competently made, entertaining action war film that has a little bit going on under the hood as far as it's sort of messages like knowing when to walk away from a conflict. I actually kind of like the director. His name's Rick Roman Waugh, and he's made other films including Greenland and Shot Caller, if you've ever seen those.
Okay.
So he's not a bad director by any means. I think this film just had two things working against it. First, it was released in the year that Guy Ritchie's The Covenant was released, and they are very, very similar movies. And admittedly, The Covenant is a better film because I have seen that one also. And then secondly, it stars Gerard Butler, who I think people see nowadays and they immediately discount like anything he's in because he's in a lot of crappy action movies, sort of like a Jason Statham-esque actor. And so I think people just see him and sort of immediately discount a film. But honestly, to me, it's worth a watch, and I didn't think it was bad really at all. And so yeah, that is the film that they didn't get.
There's a lot of these movies I'm noticing that were on our docket at some point and then that vanished completely. All right, now
what about you?
We're going to be editing around things a little bit here as I slide around. My film they didn't get. Let's see. I got two of them. I got two films that they didn't get from last
Yeah.
year that I got. You know, just because I feel like I was a little more honest, about what they were than most people. But Sound of Freedom, which is I didn't realize this, from the same director as Bella, which was definitely a like pro-life Christian movie from a long time ago. But it's
Okay.
it's interesting that guy's still around. But he made a really good movie that was saved by some really religious people, unfortunately, because this would have been a totally fine film if not for all of the hokey, deliberate things they added into it, like his monologue at the end. But overall, not what a lot of critics were saying it was, and more worthwhile than they were ever likely ever going to be able to admit. And the same is kind of true of Rebel Moon. I'm viewing this more like a pilot for a TV show, not really a movie. And because this objectively sucks as a movie, but as an experience, it was worth the time that I gave it. Maybe not enough time to make another video about it, but it at least needed one. Now it also gets this designation because I think time will be kinder to Rebel Moon than a lot of the dreck that Disney and Warner Brothers offered up last year.
Yeah. Good choice.
Okay. We're gonna slide
Well,
into yours. I just need to set this up a little bit here.
yeah. Yeah. Well, you set that up. I'll say that our next category is sort of the inverse of the one we just did. It's the film we didn't get, and this is the movie that everybody else seemed to love that we didn't like at all. And so, yeah, I guess Are you ready now?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Take it away.
I'll kick it off. Reality. This was the straight to max movie, I guess, that if anybody doesn't know is about Reality Winner, who was an intelligence specialist who was arrested for leaking info about Russian interference in the 2016 election. This movie has a shocking 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I found this thing so dull and boring. Its sort of gimmick is that all of the dialogue comes straight from a recorded transcript that the FBI basically had, because they recorded all their interactions with this woman. And so all the script is just basically transcripts of them interrogating her and searching her house. And I think most people would count that as a positive because it's as close to real life as you're going to get without making a documentary. But I found it dull. It's like taking dialogue straight from a transcript doesn't imbue drama into a film. It's like watching a 90-minute like police interrogation video on LiveLeak or something.
Yeah.
With all of the irrelevant, redundant conversations left in. And so yeah, I actually didn't even finish this one. I made it an hour and 10 minutes into it and then just turned to my wife and asked her if she wanted to go to bed because it was so boring. And so yeah, this is the film I did not get.
Because this got a lot of hype, like as I recall, and a lot of plaudits. So Sydney Sweeney wasn't giving you anything?
Not really, because the whole thing with her, she gave a pretty good performance, but it again, and it was kind of another gimmicky thing because all of the talk around her in this movie was like, oh my God, look at how not hot they made Sydney Sweeney. Doesn't she look like a slob? And she's, they did such a good job of covering up her massive tits. And
now I'm understanding. It was a transformation role for her because the real Reality Winner is such an ogre.
Pretty much.
It's like, oh God, it's a Princess Fiona between human and an ogre form. I got you. That's very funny. All right, now we're gonna edit around this while I set mine up. And so there's just gonna be some cool transitions between shit.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah. All right. So the movie I didn't get is one that it didn't offend me like it did some people. Like it didn't awake my baby rage, but it did make me go, this is what everyone's so fucking excited about? Like this is a movie about nothing. Like the Lego movie, another movie about toys, had, I would say, more genuine, like heart and success at doing what it was doing. The Barbie movie is so scattershot. It's so all over the place. She's trying to say and do so many things at once, and I don't think she does any of them very well. She being Greta Gerwig. And the actors are doing their best. The set design is awesome. I'll give you that. But you have Will Ferrell effectively playing the same role in this movie as he did in the Lego movie.
Yep.
Effectively. And I'm not gonna get into like the culture war politics surrounding it, because purely as a movie experience, every adult woman, I should say, is crying. Like that's my experience. My wife cried. This grown woman who brought her like 7-year-old twin daughters to it at the screening we saw it at, she was crying, and the kids are just sitting there like bored as fuck. And like we tried putting this on for November, and this is a child that literally got an army of fucking Barbies for Christmas, and even she didn't give a shit. So yeah. This is a movie for grown-ups, and I think that's because, I don't know, like most of the people who would buy a ticket to see a Barbie movie in a theater are probably grown up, because little girls watch Barbie content on streaming now. But yeah, yes. Like that's just kind of where the cookie crumbles with me. Did you ever see Barbie yourself?
I did, yeah. Once it showed up on streaming, me and my wife watched it, and yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you say. I mean, it is so mind-boggling to me that it is getting all these like award nominations. I can understand why, women between the ages of, let's say, 18 and 35 like this movie so much, but the fact that it's getting like actual award nominations is so nuts to me, and it's so it is diminishing the credibility of these award shows even more than they're already diminished.
So this is a sidebar debate here, but are you saying that just because a movie grosses $1 billion, it might not be very good?
That is exactly what I'm saying. Yes, that is. I mean, it very much follows a formula too, because it's like, unfortunately, it's very cynical, but I'm sorry to say it's true that, you can take something that an established brand like Barbie, and then just inject a little bit of commentary in it, a little bit of sort of superficial commentary, and people will go nuts over it because it's not as bad as something like, Transformers, let's say.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's getting way more hype than it deserves.
But it did permeate the culture. It had the music, like the music branding synergy going on here, having all the artists involved in the soundtrack that it did. Like, it was going to draw in eyeballs no matter what. Hook or by crook, they were going to make sure that people saw it. But yeah, I just don't agree that this is something we should hold, very high in the scheme of things, considering all the other movies we've talked about, this year, that we saw this year and appreciated a lot more.
Yep.
Now we're going to slide you over to your most anticipated.
Yeah, so these are our 3 most anticipated films of 2024. And I guess I'll kick us off with my 3. My first one is Out of Darkness. And I'm kind of taking a chance with this one. Not really familiar with the writer or the director. They're I think first-time feature as far as the director goes. This movie has actually been floating around since 2022, and it's finally getting a theatrical release. Yeah, it's played at a bunch of festivals. I think they've been trying to generate hype for it. A lot of people have actually already seen it. And I just really like the premise behind this one, because this is about a nomadic Stone Age group of early humans who are essentially searching for a new home. And then they basically start getting hunted down by someone or something. And it's folk horror creature feature in ancient times is essentially the pitch.
Killer pitch.
Yeah, really, really like it. My number 2 is Love Lies Bleeding. This is the highly anticipated second feature from Rose Glass, the director of Saint Maud. And I think this is more my speed than that movie was. This is a romance.
That's who made
thriller.
This?
Yeah, Rose Glass.
Oh my God. I did not realize that. Okay. Holy shit.
So yeah, it looks pretty awesome. It's there's a trailer out now for it. Really really good trailer, by the way. It's about a gym owner who falls in love with a bodybuilder, and then they essentially get involved with her father, who's like a mob boss. And this has got Kirsten Stewart in the lead role, Ed Harris playing the bad
With
guy.
an awful like bald cap on.
Yeah,
He's
bald cap
so
with a
gross
mullet.
looking.
Yeah. And then I guess this is probably going to be the movie that launches Katie O'Brien, who plays the bodybuilder love interest of Kirsten Stewart, and she got absolutely jacked for this movie. People will recognize her as like sort of the Empire lackey from The Mandalorian.
That's why
Um,
she was familiar. Okay.
yep.
All right.
And so, yeah, this is sort of probably going to be her breakout role, I would imagine. And yeah, really, really looking forward to this one. And then my third pick is The Bike Riders. I'm always down for some Jeff Nichols, and this is his first film since 2016. It is an adaptation of a photo essay book of all things, and the essay book was about a Chicago bike gang from the 60s called the Outlaws MC. And yeah, I just really like the concept behind it. I like the time period. The cast is fantastic. You got Tom Hardy, Michael Shannon, Austin Butler, and then of course, because the movie is about motorcycles, Norman Reedus is in this one
Of
because he has to
course.
be involved with everything about motorcycles. But yeah, those are my three. And what about you, Chuck?
Mine. Let's see here. Mine are. I don't know. A little. I struggled a little bit with this category because there was a lot of things that I threw on it and took off of it. But when I
Yeah.
get down to it, what has got me the most, like, got my ears pricked up the most, this first image from Robert Eggers' Nosferatu has just got its fucking hooks deep into me. I want that movie so bad. It's been promised for so long. The Wayback Machine on Facebook gave me a notification about a post I made about Robert Eggers' Nosferatu like 4 fucking years ago. So like that's how long this has been talked about. The final film from Alex Garland, Civil War, that trailer has me all kinds of interested. There's a lot of
Kind of
just
uncomfortable.
yeah,
Makes you
very
uncomfortable.
yeah. It's like because it's doing this kind of thing right. That brief snippet of a scene that you get with what's his face, the blonde guy, Matt Damon's Jesse Plemons, Matt Damon's long lost cousin. When Jesse Plemons is like, "Well, what kind of American are you?" That's where I was like, "Oh fuck!" They're like, that's where they're going with it. They're getting real with it, because like that's the kind of shit that you're gonna have to deal with when you have a genuine splintering of this more perfect union or whatever the fuck. So I'm really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to that. And then the last one is Masters of the Air. Just because I want these like kind of Band of Brothers-esque productions to get back to that standard. And there's a book not Masters of the Air, but there was a book I read a long time ago called Citizen Soldiers. Okay, then put it in the sink, honey. I think it was by Stephen Ambrose though, but it talked about what the war was like for bomber pilots, and that has stuck with me for a really really long time. And I just wonder if it's going to be reaching that kind of level, and I hope it does, because there's nothing cozier to me than a World War II series from HBO. Even if the Pacific was an imperfect vessel, I still will throw it on every once in a while, just because I like that kind of production. It's like it's the CBS viewer in me that's just like looking for that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I got on my list.
Yeah, great list. I'm also Masters of the Air has been like in the can for so long too. Like
I kid you not. I remember saying that I thought it was coming out this year, but I think the strike bumped it. So like this is the second time we've done my most anticipated, and this has been on it.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. But yeah, Yeah, great list. And yeah, I guess we'll put 2023 to bed now, and we'll move along with 2024. We've got a couple of interesting stuff coming out in January of all things, because January is usually like a movie wasteland. So
Yeah,
yeah, we
dude.
will.
And we have Dune Part 2 coming out in March. Like, how
Yeah,
fucking lucky are we? Unless that's been
yeah.
reneged since then.
No, it's
That's
still March.
that's still
Yep.
March. Woo!
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot to look forward to this year. But yeah, everyone, thank you for being with us in the last year. We're going to be entering our first full year anniversary, I guess, of being theater and stream coming up here around that time, which will be coincidental because we started this whole thing off by reviewing Dune Part 1. So I think that's very synchronous. The synchronicity
Yeah.
is there. But thank you once again for watching and have a good week.
Yep. See ya.